I always loved camping alone. People told me it was risky, but the forest felt like the only place where my mind stayed quiet, where the world slowed down. That changed the night I saw the lantern. It was my third evening in the deep woods. Cool air, tall pines, and the sound of a river far away. It was perfect. I set up my tent and sat by the fire. Everything felt normal until the trees to my left lit up with a soft, warm glow. A lantern glow, but too high, too steady, and definitely too close. At first, I thought it was another hiker. I even called out, "Hello, need help?" No answer. The lantern lights stayed completely still for a long moment. Then, slowly, it began moving between the trees, smooth, silent, almost floating. The forest should have echoed with footsteps or branches snapping, but all I heard was my own breathing. I decided not to follow. I told myself it was none of my business, but later that night, lying in my sleeping bag, I kept thinking about that lantern. Who walks through a forest at night without making a sound? Around midnight, something outside my tent made the answer obvious. A soft scraping sound right at the entrance, like someone dragging something heavy. Then a small glow lit up the fabric of the tent. Yellow-orange, warm, the same lantern light. My heart started pounding, but I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. The light stayed there for a full minute, then faded away. Morning came slowly. I stepped outside, shaking and frozen. Right in front of my tent was a lantern. Old, rusty, glass cracked, but the wick was still warm. And the ground around it, there were no footprints, only long, thin drag marks. I should have left, but I didn't. I packed up and moved deeper into the woods, thinking maybe I was imagining things, but that night, she appeared. I was collecting firewood when I heard soft breathing behind me. I turned slowly. There, standing between the trees, was the lantern woman. Her body was tall and thin, too thin. Her legs bent strangely, like her bones were shaped wrong. She wore a long dress torn in several places, but the worst part? She had no face, no eyes, no mouth, only smooth skin from forehead to chin. In her hands, she held the lantern, old, cracked, and glowing. She didn't move. She didn't shake. She just stood there, breathing softly through a face that had no holes for breath. I stumbled back, dropped my firewood, and ran to my tent. I zipped it shut, even though I knew a zipper wasn't stopping anything. That night, she placed the lantern in front of my tent again. I didn't sleep. The next morning, the lantern was gone, but the trees around my tent were charred as if someone held a fire against them for hours. I broke camp and started hiking out. Every hour, I heard that soft breathing behind me. Every few minutes, a distant lantern glow appeared between the trees, always the same distance away, as if she was following, but never rushing. By evening, I reached a small rocky clearing. I sat down to catch my breath when I saw something terrifying. Another tent, old, torn, abandoned. Inside it were clothes covered in ash, a melted backpack, and a dusty old notebook. I opened it. The handwriting was shaky, rushed. "If you see her lantern, never follow it. She lost her face in the fire long ago. She wants yours to replace it." My stomach dropped. Replace it? A sudden glow lit the clearing right behind me. I turned slowly. The lantern woman stood only a few feet away, breathing, waiting. I ran. I sprinted through the forest, branches slicing my arms, roots catching my feet. Her lantern followed me like a slow-moving moon. When I finally reached the trailhead, I collapsed. panting. My car was still parked there. I jumped in and drove like my life depended on it. I thought I escaped, but when I got home, I found something waiting on my doorstep. A lantern, old, rusty, the wick still warm, and inside my bathroom mirror, where my reflection should be, I saw her standing behind me, closer each day, getting even closer every moment, every minute, every second, each night. Everything was changing. I think she will always wait. She'll wait until she gets my face. I never planned to wander off trail, but sometimes curiosity wins over common sense. The forest behind my uncle's cabin was huge, wild, and barely touched. No signs, no paths, just miles of trees and silence. I hiked for hours before I found it. A mound of dirt, freshly dug, wrong shape, wrong place. A grave in the middle of nowhere. There was no marker, no flowers, no shovel marks, just disturbed soil and something half buried sticking out of the dirt. I bent down, brushed some leaves aside, and my stomach twisted. It was my wallet, exactly mine. Not a wallet like mine, not one that looked similar. It was mine. Same scratch on the leather, same faded corner, same small burn mark from a campfire accident years ago. But my wallet was in my pocket. I checked. Yes, still there, still warm from being in my jeans. I stared at the one in the grave again, identical in every detail. Was this merely a coincidence? My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were my ID, my cards, my old childhood photo. Everything exactly the same, except for one new thing. A folded piece of paper with my handwriting. It said, "Do not dig." I stepped back so fast I almost fell. Why would I write a note warning myself? When? How? And then another thought hit me. If there is a wallet, maybe there is something or someone buried under it. Someone who had my ID, someone who looked like me, someone who was me or would be me. I turned and started walking away fast, but the forest around me changed. The path I came from was gone. Trees looked different. The air felt different. The forest felt alive, watching, waiting. When night came, I tried to sleep against a fallen log, but around midnight, I heard dirt shifting behind me, slowly, like something was crawling out of the grave. I stayed still, too scared to move, too scared to breathe. The sound grew louder, closer, until I heard footsteps, soft, uneven footsteps, then a voice, my voice whispering, "Why didn't you dig?" I ran blindly in the dark. Branches cut my arms, roots grabbed at my feet. The voice followed me, calling my name in a broken version of my own tone. "Come back. It is your turn now. Let me out." By sunrise, I found an old forest road and followed it until I reached my uncle's cabin. But I didn't tell him what I saw. I didn't tell anyone. I just tried to forget. Until last night, when I got home from work, there was dirt on my doorstep. Fresh dirt. and on top of it, my wallet. The second one, the grave one, another note was tucked inside, this one in shaky handwriting. You can't outrun your own grave. And then, this morning, I found drag marks in the hallway, dirty fingerprints on my bedroom door. Something is inside my house, something from the deep woods, something that crawled out of a grave that was meant for me. And tonight, I hear it breathing outside my room, slowly, patiently, waiting for me to take its place underground. But that will never happen. I will fight until the end, even if I have to go and burn the deep woods all together. I wasn't supposed to go hiking alone, but after a rough week, the woods felt like the right place to clear my mind. I packed light, just a tent, some snacks, and my phone. On the first day, everything was peaceful. Quiet air, cool shade, birds chirping like a calm soundtrack. Then the clicking started, soft, sharp, like a camera shutter. I looked around, but there was no one there. Just trees, tall, quiet trees. I told myself it was a branch snapping, or a bug, or maybe my imagination. That night, I camped beside a small creek. As I drifted off to sleep, I heard the clicking again, faint, rhythmic, almost curious. The next morning, when I checked my phone, I nearly dropped it. There were 72 new photos in my gallery, all taken sometime between midnight and 3 a.m. Every single picture was of me, sleeping, breathing, turning in my sleeping bag. The creepiest part, all the photos were taken from only a few feet away, close enough to see the pores on my skin. I looked around my campsite, no footprints. No signs of someone standing near me, but the clicking kept happening during the day, always from behind me, never in front. By the second day, my phone storage was almost full. Hundreds of new pictures, me walking, me eating, me staring at the trees, taken from behind tree trunks, high branches, even from angles far above my head, angles impossible for a human to reach. I started running, but every time I stopped to breathe, the clicking began again. I checked my phone constantly, more photos, hundreds more. In one of them, something caught my eye, a figure in the background, fat, bark-like skin, and where its eyes should be, two small camera lenses. It wasn't a person taking photos, it was the forest. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat against a rock with my flashlight pointed in every direction, but no matter how quiet I stayed, the clicking continued. Sometimes close, sometimes far, sometimes directly behind my ear. I turned my phone off, but when I turned it on again, there were more pictures. This time, they weren't of me sleeping or hiking. They were of me standing. Even though I had been sitting the whole time, dozens of photos of me standing perfectly still, eyes wide open, like a copy of me was moving through the forest. I almost left my phone behind, but I needed it for the map. On my final day in the woods, the clicking was constant. Every step echoed with sharp, quiet shutter sounds. When I reached the parking lot, relief washed over me. But before I got in my car, I checked my phone one last time. One new photo had appeared, just one. It was taken from behind me seconds ago. I was standing at the edge of the parking lot, but in the picture, something was standing behind me. Tall, wooden, camera lens eyes glowing faintly, hands shaped like branches, curved as if holding a camera frame. I spun around. Nothing was there, just trees. I drove home shaking, but the story doesn't end there. This morning, my phone buzzed. A new notification, new photos added. I opened the gallery, hundreds of new pictures. My bedroom, my hallway, my bathroom, all taken while I slept. In one picture, a tall, fat, wooden figure stood in the corner of my room, lenses glowing, watching me, watching closely. The forest isn't done with me, and I think it is waiting to take the final picture, the last picture. Will it be the last picture of me ever, or will I ever escape the deep woods?